Hi, I'm Ted Santos, and I am your host of Straight Talk. We are the talk show that is made for men by men, except ladies. You'll never want to miss our show. We come on every Sunday evening at 7 o'clock. And in addition to having a talk show, we have a Facebook group called by the same name, Straight Talk. If you're not in it, connect with me on Straight Talk on Facebook, and I'll get you in there. You'll enjoy the conversations. We are always talking about relationships from a man's perspective. And today, man, oh man, I'm reporting on some news. And for sure, this is from a man's perspective. The Wall Street Journal wrote an article talking about marriage in the United States. It's at an all-time low. All-time low. They first started keeping the statistics on marriage in the United States in 1867, and never since that time has the marriage rate been as low as it is right now. From 1867 until now, the marriage rates are lower than they've ever been, ever since they first started recording this. So think about this. 2020 is an epic year. Epic! It's epic. We've got a pandemic that's really showing people what they're made of in 2020. And we've got a report saying that men are opting out at record highs. Record highs. There are all kinds of articles that have been warning that this was happening. And I bet some ladies are looking at this as though it's some black swan event. And for those of you who don't know what a black swan is, there was a book written, and I'll tell you, the author is Nassim Nicholas Taleb. Great book, worth reading. And the black swan, what the black swan is about, is events that could not have been predicted. They were unpredictable, like this COVID-19. The coronavirus was a year ago. No one would have predicted that we'd be in a pandemic with the whole world shut down, right? So a black swan is predicated on a basis of, in Europe, they used to believe all swans were white. That was a scientific fact, and no one questioned it. When they first came, at some point when they came to the Americas, they saw a black swan. They could have never predicted they were going to see a black swan because they had the scientific facts that all swans were white. So it was something they couldn't account for, they couldn't predict, and it completely changed the future of how they saw swans. So if we look at this virus, right? This virus has ushered in a completely new paradigm. Whether it's business, marriage, like everything has been disrupted. And it's not just the US, it's the whole world. So I want to talk about this disruption in relationships, in marriage, specifically marriage. And in the US, to have it at such record lows, it's saying something about the future of marriage. And I'm not sure if women have fully grasped what has been happening. Even though the writing has been on the wall, some of you are sitting there like this is some black swan event that you couldn't predict and you can't understand what's happening. So I'm going to help you ladies, and I'd like you men to chime in, and I'd like you to let me know if I missed something in the comments. But I'm going to give the top 10 reasons so many men have walked away from marriage. Top 10 reasons, ladies. Top 10 reasons men have walked away from marriage. And why you may never find a spouse. Well, I guess you could always marry another woman, but their divorce rate is 40%. So, to each her own. We still love you, ladies. But you've got to understand what's been happening, and the writing has been on the wall. So, let's start with Number 10, top 10 reasons men have walked away from marriage. You ladies, you played poker with men. And you played poker with nothing in your hand except the vagina. You used the vagina as a bargaining chip. You used it for dating, you used it for marriage, and you played your hand with nothing in it. Men called your bluff. They walked away. And what you all never counted for, you never counted on, was movements like MGTOW, men go their own way. The whole red pill, blue pill, the red pill movement. Cisbin, which means save yourself, black man. So, and there are other, even the incels. So, none of this has anything to do with men not liking women, not being interested in women. It's men taking a stand and saying, we've been warning you. You wanted to be feminist, you wanted to come down on all men, and you wanted to play a game of poker with us. And what you ladies haven't really comprehended is that only 1% of men are making these policies and all these claims that you feel oppressed. It's 1%. Why would you go after 99, after 100% of the men? And here's the craziest thing. The 1% who you claim to have oppressed you, you women pursue and have much more interest in those men, the very men who are making all the policies that you say suppress you are the very men that you make yourselves available to. Like, help me understand that. So you went after the 99% as opposed to the 1%. And men have said no. They let you play your hand with nothing in it. Men are going abroad. There are women who did not side with feminism. Unfortunately, many of them, those women have to hide out. And men have walked away. Or they take advantage of what feminism has made available for men, which took away this whole idea of having to wine and dine and date women. Feminists told women to go ahead and be promiscuous, sexual liberation, spread your legs, lady. You can do whatever men do. And that's been to a man's advantage. You want to be sexually liberated? Fine. If you played poker and the only thing that was in your hand was a vagina, and now you want to be sexually liberated, and that's all you're bringing is sex, which doesn't guarantee that all of you are even good at it, but let's say that's something that a man finds valuable and doesn't need anything else. Well, feminism has given men a huge advantage. We enjoy and appreciate your sexual liberation. And you can bring your vagina. And since there's nothing else, why would you marry a woman who only brings vagina? So that was kind of long, but number 10 is you ladies played poker with us. And you played with a hand that was just dead. Number 9. Women said marriage doesn't even benefit them. You don't even need marriage. It doesn't benefit you. So why would men ask you to marry you? In addition to women saying marriage doesn't benefit them, there's a website called Gleeden.com. It's a website made by a company with all women, only women in it, and it's for married women who want to cheat, to have an affair. So you see, ladies, if the only thing you're bringing is vagina, and men can go abroad and find women who are more feminine and more appealing as a human being, or we can go to this website for women who want to cheat and have affairs, and we understand that it's vagina that she's bringing to the affair and nothing else, why would we marry? When you ask women, what are the benefits to a man in marriage? What does a man get in marriage that he couldn't get as a single man? And for some reason, you ladies don't give an answer to that question. In addition, 38% of marriages are sexless. So a man is going to be better off to find several women on this Gleeden website, and he just has a constant supply of some married woman who's willing to have sex and probably not having sex with her husband. So number 9, women say marriage doesn't benefit them, so why marry them? Number 8, women, you believe it's a man's job to give you and provide his resources to you, even in dating, his money. Like, we just want to get to know you. Why do you have any rights to our resources? Why should I marry a woman who believes she has a right to my resources? So, number 8, why give you my resources or access to them? $40 to pay your phone bill or whatever it is. I understand in this pandemic, it's you ladies are asking for less than $40 these days. Number 7, money. This is something men are understanding more than ever. Savvy men have understood this always. Money is for investments. And if you invest, you want a return. So ladies, men have asked, what return do I get by investing my money in you? Vagina? That thing that you're holding in a poker game? What's a man's return? Are you going to tell us you have children for us? There's so many ways to handle that, and I'll get to that one. But money's for investments. And if any savvy man understands how to make an investment, here's what you understand. You never invest in a depreciating asset. So, ladies, if we're investing in you, and over time you get older, you can't have children. I mean, if your vagina and your uterus is what you have as a bargaining chip, what about the women who have had hysterectomies or complications and can't have children? Does that mean she's worthless? Like, what are we saying here? So, as a woman gets older, if what you're bringing to the table is your beauty and your vagina, and as time goes by, you get older, that means you are depreciating. If I buy a property, the intent is to buy property that appreciates over time. I can even pass it on as generational wealth, and my children can leverage it in a lot of different ways. But if I invest in a woman, how does that... Like, you really would have to bring something to the relationship, ladies, to have a man invest in you. And as you get older, you lose your beauty, you lose your youth, you lose your ability to have children. How does that make you an appreciating asset? And men are not getting answers to that question. So why should they invest? Why should they date? Why should they spend any money? Netflix and chill. That's a fairly cheap subscription, right? And in this COVID-19 environment, dates ain't really happening the way they used to. And for you traditional ladies, a real date was you bring a picnic basket with food in it, not food the man had to pay for. You demonstrated that you actually knew how to prepare something. Traditional dating wasn't about men spending money, which meant you ladies had to actually bring something aside from food. But that's a different topic. I guess you ladies don't want to have that conversation. Number 6 reason why men have walked away from marriage. You ladies feel entitled. Right? You're starting to see a theme here, a pattern. You feel entitled. When I was in my 20s, I started trying to understand why, as a boy, as a teenager, and as a man, I was told all these instructions on how to open doors, give women flowers, buy them candy, how to be gentle. You get older, you're taught about a clitoris and how to be sexually appealing and attentive, to be a good lover. And as a man, you are to have a great job. All these things I was taught. And I started asking women, well, what were you taught about the things that you are responsible? Because from a boy, I started learning what I was responsible. When I asked ladies what they were taught from a little girl, the answer was nothing. Essentially, we are teaching girls and women that they are entitled, that a man is supposed to do all these things, provide his resources, and the woman doesn't even have to show any appreciation. It's just that's your job. You're a man. Yeah, you hold the door. You're supposed to pick me up for a date. You're supposed to pay for it. And all of this is just our job. Maybe if she's in the mood, she might cook for you. And a lot of mothers stopped teaching their daughters to cook, or at least told them never tell a man you can cook, because you'll end up locked in the kitchen, right? So women are not even offering that. And I saw some headline that more and more men are doing housework, cooking, and all these traditional female things, and women are still not happy and satisfied with that. So clearly it sounds like a lot of women are entitled. So why would any guy marry a woman who feels entitled for him to do all these things, and in return she owes him nothing, because that's his job as a man? Why would a man marry into that kind of situation? Like, why? No acknowledgement or even appreciation. That's just your job. Be a man. Real men do this. Even women telling men what it means to be a real man. Number 5. You ladies want equal rights, equal opportunities, and you don't want equal responsibility. You don't even want responsibility for your own womb. It's your womb. And you elect, many of you, to not even protect your own womb, which is kind of crazy, because if you look at some of these celebrities who you could say engaged in whorish or beyond whorish behavior, like Paris Hilton and even Madonna, and there are plenty of celebrities out there who have slept with a lot of men and then one day decided, I want to get married, I want to have children, or I want to have children like Madonna and then married later. But they were in control of their own uterus, their womb. They protected it. They didn't let just any man impregnate them. So if some women can be responsible about their womb and others can't, how is that possible? Because you both have the same biology. I guess it's just a mindset that's not the same. So, you ladies want the same equality as a man. You don't want responsibility. You don't want responsibility in dating. You ladies are screaming equal rights, but I've never heard women out there screaming, I want the right to pay for dates. I want the right to approach a man. I want the right to open doors. I want the right to do all the things men do. None of you ladies are screaming you want the right to be in the front line of warfare. You don't want to be on a battlefield. I think it was from 1996 into 2016, over 6,800 men died in the military from enemy fire. Only 46 women died. That is not equal opportunity. If we reverse those numbers, it would be interesting to see how women respond. You'd probably figure out some ways to end war forever. But you don't want the equality of all the responsibilities men have. You're not out there fighting to work in steel mills. You're not fighting to work on those oil digs, oil rigs, where they're digging deep, and there are a lot of men who die in those jobs. You're not fighting to be the trash woman, the garbage company, sanitation. You're not fighting to do those jobs. You're not fighting to pick up huge garbage cans and throw in the trash in the trunk. Why not? You want equality. That would be equality. Equality socially, professionally. You don't want those. You're not screaming to work 80-hour weeks like the partners in law firms do. You don't want that. Yet you want equal pay. And by the way, women who have never had children and never married, they do make the same, according to the Department of Labor. They make the same amount as men and more in many cases, because there are jobs like a manager in engineering who gets paid 125% of men. So ladies, your desire for equality without responsibility is really a turnoff. And men are not marrying that kind of woman. Number 4. Ladies, you have a lot of talk and a lot of bragging. Except number 4 is you've built nothing. What do I mean by that? How many industries have women created? And I'm sure lots of you are going to talk about you added this biochemical analysis that was new, or you added something to a phone system. You'll tell us all these inventions, and great, I'll be the first to acknowledge women have invented many things in this world. However, when you look at the oil industry, the gold industry, street lights, elevators, peanut butter, clothing, toys, cars, or the airplane industry, all these industries that some men went broke creating, flat broke. They put it all on the line. Sometimes they lost their lives. Creating an industry requires a huge amount of risk, and you ladies will not engage in that kind of behavior. And if you claim, well, women didn't have the money, well, for sure by the 1920s, you had women who were Rockefellers, Vanderbilts, the Carnegies, the Morgans, the Astors. You had all of these families, all these women who inherited millions upon millions, in some cases hundreds of millions, and over time billions of dollars, like the Walton family. And yet, even though women have had for more than 100, at least 100 years, have had access in their own personal inheritance bank account. And remember, they inherited money from men, from their daddy or grandfather. And they invented not one industry. Software industry, computer industry, cell phones. All of this by men. All of it. And yet you ladies are screaming about all the things you've done to society, the roads you drive on, the cars you drive, the hair salons you go to, even the tampons that you use, all created by men. The guys walking on those beams when skyscrapers are being built right across the river from me in Manhattan, I don't see women walking on those beams. You haven't built anything, yet you want us to treat you as though you've built everything. And I guess you say you had a baby. So once again, women who can't have children, what do? Should we discard them? What do we do with those women? I mean, once you start talking about you had babies, so that we should discard any woman who can't have a baby? Build something, ladies. At the very least, Back in the 70s when you said you didn't need a man and men are not worth anything and you wanted a battle of the sexes, that was a perfect time for all of you ladies who didn't need a man to move. Just go. Go carve out land, just raw land, and build your own civilization. Financed by women, not by your daddy or your uncle or your grandfather. Financed by women, like the names I mentioned, the Vanderbilts, the Carnegies, the Kennedys. Finance your own city and build it and show us how it's done. Create your own companies, pay the women high salaries, and show us how it's done. For some reason, you won't do that. Go move to an island. Yet you want men to marry you and you want to reap all the benefits. You want to say you don't need us. Yet you drive on our roads and you work in our buildings and live in our houses. And then we marry you and give you more of our resources. That takes me to number 3. I don't need a man. You keep telling people you don't need them, eventually they walk away from you. Keep going to your job, ladies, and say, I don't need this job. I don't need you. I don't need this job. Well, eventually they'll fire you. You get fired. So now millions of you ladies have been fired. You don't need a man. Yet you're all clustered together as women when you go out. And wait until you hit 40 and 45. And the average woman, you can live to what? Be 80, 85 years old? 90? Do you know what it's like to be 45 years old and have another 40 years to live and to be what is considered undesirable? See, this pandemic is helping people understand what it really means to live alone. This quarantine, social distancing. And so for all you ladies who have screamed, I don't need a man, maybe the pandemic will help you better understand, except you've created such a big problem, you've got to rethink how to undo it. And for all of you who say, well, I didn't say I don't need a man, I wasn't there, that was my mother, grandmother, aunt. And some of you are saying that, well, my mother didn't do that, but someone did. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. Someone coined this notion of battle of the sexes. So you said, I don't need a man. That's what you have now. And you're living on our land, on our inventions, on our industries, and you don't need us. Like I said, carve out some land and go build your own. Number 2. You know this one was coming up. Number 2 is the court systems. Ladies, you have abused them. You take men to court. It's almost like some of you are using marriage and children as a business model, right? So there's a percentage of women who don't want to work. I have a cousin who years ago worked for the Department of Education in Newark, New Jersey, and she told me she was speaking to one of the high school girls in high school and asked her what she wanted to do with her life and what would she major in college. And the girl said, hey, I'm not walking past my mailbox to get my welfare check. I'm not working anywhere. So there are some women who use the court system and the government overall as a business model to generate revenue, to have children. They'll have 4, 5, 6 plus children, and sometimes with different men. So they're using the government and the court system as a way, and the court, the government doesn't care about how responsible these women are. They don't care about how many sexually transmitted diseases they have. They don't care what they do with the money. They don't care how promiscuous they are, how many times they get pregnant. They reward these women for having babies, and the women get a check. Not a great way to live. However, when those women are using the government for some money and then using men for other resources, some of them may, in their mind, believe they have a pretty good life. But then there are other women who go to divorce court and have children and will take a house from a man when he already owned the house before he even met the woman. I mean, some of this stuff is just downright malicious. It's not even counting how some of these women physically and mentally, emotionally abuse men and go into the courts and play victim. Well, you ladies have abused the court system. And men, this is really how groups like MGTOW have come out of that. You know, some guys who really went through some rough divorces. And if any of you are wondering, I haven't been married, I haven't been divorced. No one ever helped me understand why I would marry. And it wasn't even that I was worried about divorce. But you ladies have abused the court system. You've wanted alimony for the rest of your life. Like, you know, if you just look at what I've gone through, like, what's the man's return on investment of if I give you my money, what do I get in return? And now you go into the court system and demanding my money. And what am I getting for that? Ah. And the court system has unequivocal, right? The courts have sided with women. So men just opted out. How do you avoid the court system? Don't get married. Guys, and the next step is don't get women pregnant. I mean, just don't do it. You know, you'd be better off if you're a guy and you really want to have children. You can use, there are companies that have surrogate women, and she signs a contract and it dictates what she can eat and not eat and how she cares for your child in her. She has the baby and she goes away. You can do that. You have no commitment or obligation. That woman gets paid X amount of dollars and you're done. You're done with her. So, and aside from that, and from your ladies who want to go to court for child support, well, if you can't afford to take care of the baby, why have it? Like, you shouldn't have children. And if you want the man to support it, well, perhaps he should be the one to take care of the child and not you. Apparently, you're not qualified to be able to support a family. So the person who can actually support it should, because men get devastated financially. And, you know, it's really unfortunate because, you know, I would be the first to say, when you look at the statistics on what happens to children in a single parent household, you know, emotional trauma, right? This is not a healthy environment. They're exposed to all kinds of, they're vulnerable. Some person's going to sexually molest them. You have women who are disappearing because they're growing up in an environment that doesn't have the male protection. And it's even illogical. Like, why would a woman want to raise a family alone? If you have to work, if you don't get alimony and you get child support and it's not enough to pay everything, you're like in double duty. You're working, you're taking care of the children, you're still cooking and cleaning, you're still doing all the things that you claim you didn't want to do. Like, as a third grader, I couldn't understand why women divorced and thought they were better off without a man. I never understood that. It just seems worse. And the children are neglected. They don't get all the attention and home education. I'm not talking about homeschooling. There are things children learn from home. In fact, children who grow up with both parents in a house have higher IQs. They have better problem-solving skills by having the father in the home. And there are lots of articles and statistics to support that. So, the number one reason marriage rates are dropping in the United States, and I know many of you ladies are going to make the claim that, well, you have a better education than most men and you don't want to get married, well, you need to rethink that. See, you ladies are the gatekeepers of sex. You decide when sex will happen and with whom. Men are the gatekeepers of marriage. So it's not you ladies who decide when marriage happens. The number one reason you're not getting married is because men are the gatekeepers to marriage. And they are not asking you, not because you have a degree. They find you undesirable. They find these other 10 things to be not worth it. So let's run through this. Number 10 reason is women played poker with nothing in their hand. Number 9, women say marriage doesn't benefit them. Number 8, women believe it's a man's job to use his resources for her. Number 7, money is used for investments. The return is very low for men in a marriage or investing it in a woman. Number 6, you ladies have been raised to be entitled. Number 5, women want equal rights without equal responsibility. Number 4, women, ladies, women, females, you've built nothing, yet you want credit as though you've created everything. Number 3, you ladies said you didn't need a man. There you go. See? Like rubbing the Aladdin's lamp. You made a wish and you got it. Number 2, the court system. And number 1 is men are the gatekeepers to marriage. If they don't ask you, you don't get married. I mean, it's just that simple. Men propose. They make the marriage proposal. I understand there are lots of women dropping to one knee and asking a man to marry. But most of you ladies don't have the guts to do that. You don't even have the guts to walk up to a man and approach him and ask for his number and invite him out for dinner. You don't do that. So it's men who decide whether marriage happens. And there are too many sexless marriages. I mean, gosh, 38% sexless. Think about that. 38, that's almost 40. That's close to half the marriages are not having sex. What man would make a marriage proposal understanding that he could possibly be in a situation where sex doesn't happen? So, those are the top 10, ladies. Gentlemen, if I missed one or two or 10, I'd like to hear your comments below. Tell me which ones, the reasons you think the marriage rates have dropped to an all-time low in the United States. Do you understand that, ladies? And there are no indications that men are about to do about face. What are you ladies going to do about this? And don't tell me about your mother and your grandmother. You've been involved. You've been angry at 100% of the men for what 1% of the men have done. Think about the logic behind that. Think about the amount of intelligence. That's like you have 5 children and one child does something and you punish all 5. And the other 4 were not even home. It's illogical. So what are you ladies going to do with the pandemic? What are you going to do when many of you don't get called back to work? And you've depended on men for their resources. And many of you claim you don't, yet you're still out here asking men to pay your cell phone and your rent and your car note and all this stuff. And you're not going into a marriage doing 50-50. Your money is your money and his is his. So what will you do now as marriage rates continue to drop? I want to hear your comments, everyone. Like the video, share it. Tell me why you think marriage is dropping, fellas. Ladies, I'd like to hear your reasons. And until then, join me on Sunday evenings on Straight Talk. Join me in a group where we can continue the conversation on Facebook. And hey, thanks for listening. Take care. Goodbye.